Welcome to Wednesday's programme. It's the 11th of September, and today, 35 years after he was shot dead in front of his wife and children, an independent public inquiry has been ordered into the murder of Pat Finucane. His was one of the most controversial killings of the Troubles, and it's already been established there was collusion between state agents and loyalist paramilitaries. Let's look at how we got to this point. Mr. Finucane, a solicitor, was having a meal with his family when loyalist paramilitaries smashed their way into his home. He died at the scene. The UK government then appointed a series of men to examine the claims of collusion. Investigations were started by Sir John Stevens in 1999. In 2002, the retired Canadian judge Peter Corrie began his work, and there was a review by former UN war crimes prosecutor Sir Desmond de Silva. That was in 2011. He reported in 2012, and that year, the Prime Minister David Cameron apologised for what he called shocking levels of collusion. But the Finucanes still had questions and campaigned on for a full public inquiry. They took their case to the UK Supreme Court, and in 2019, it said the original police investigations had not met human rights standards. And since then, Pat's widow, Geraldine, along with her family, that includes on the right there, John Finucane, the Sinn Féin MP, they have fought a series of battles in courts, all of which have brought them to today. Our crime and justice correspondent Julian O'Neill reports now on the significance of the decision and what it means for other cases from the Troubles.
Pat Finucane was shot dead in front of his family. It was later established 2 state agents were part of the UDA murder plot, and that MI5 was aware he was under threat. Mr. Finucane's family has taken court case after court case in pursuit of a public inquiry, twice promised in 2001 and 2004, and which now has been delivered.
2 decades on, the commitment made by the government, first in the agreement with the Irish government and then to this House, to establish an inquiry into the death of Mr. Finucane remains unfulfilled. It is for this exceptional reason that I have decided to establish an independent inquiry into the death of Patrick Finucane under the 2005 Inquiries Act.
The inquiry will be set up as soon as possible and be led by a judge.
I hope that this inquiry will finally provide the information that the Finucane family has sought for so long. The government will seek to appoint a chair of the inquiry and establish its terms of reference as soon as possible, and I will update the House further. Mr. Speaker, I commend this statement to the House.
The Finucane family welcomed the inquiry, describing it as a watershed moment.
We find ourselves here today, over 35 years later, with the British government accepting that there needs to be a full public inquiry. It's what we've always asked for, and we look forward to getting down and getting stuck into the work as soon as is possible.
To be honest, I'm still letting it all sink in, because really, after 35 years, you'll understand, I sort of thought I maybe would never hear somebody saying, we'll grant you a public inquiry.
The government says there are unique aspects to the Finucane case, but those who represent some Troubles victims say it looks like special treatment.
We're very conscious that many other victims and survivors are watching events unfold, and many, I suppose, are asking that obvious question. The amount of resourcing that has gone into this particular case, and they have saw very little ever done in regards to their own case.
The case of Pat Finucane has never gone away due to decades of legal battles. Now his family has the public inquiry it fought for. Julian O'Neill, BBC Newsline, Belfast.
Political leaders have been reacting to today's announcement. Sinn Féin and the Irish government described it as a vindication of the Finucane family's campaign. Unionist parties, including the DUP, accused Labour of creating a hierarchy of victims. Here's our political correspondent, Jane McCormack.
If ever there was a reminder of how politically divisive legacy can still be, today was it. Minutes after the government made the decision public, unionists were asking one thing.
Families across Northern Ireland will ask the question, what about us? So too do I. because the most exceptional circumstance around this is the exceptionality of treatment. Over 1,200 families still have neither truth nor justice. And if the plans that were enacted last year continue, then they will never get justice.
The honest answer to his question is that in this particular case, and doesn't apply to any of the others, the government of our country made a commitment twice. I think it's right and proper, a government in the past having made that commitment, that we honour it.
And the criticisms continued.
And I just seek clarity from the Secretary of State that he is saying to those families that their only opportunity for truth, recovery and justice is to go through this organisation, and he will not engage with them in regards to a further inquiry.
Isn't the takeaway, the tragic takeaway from the Secretary of State's statement today, that for innocent victims of the IRA, UVF and others, the ICIR is good enough for them, but it's not good enough for the Finucane family?
But others chose to back both the Finucane family and today's move.
Can I commend Geraldine Finucane and the Finucane family, including of course the member for North Belfast, for the tireless campaigning that they've done to get to this point. And can I thank the Secretary of State for finally doing the right thing on behalf of the British government and announcing this inquiry.
In Dublin, where until lately relations on legacy have been frosty, the decision brings added warmth.
I think it shows an important new approach by the British government in relation to these sensitive issues. Of course, the detail will need to be teased through with the family. The family need to be kept fully informed, but I want to thank Keir Starmer for his leadership on this.
Politics is all about choices. This one could yet prove challenging for Labour. Jane McCormack, BBC Newsline.
Well, I'm joined now by our crime and justice correspondent, Julian. Help us understand what the next steps are.
Well, we don't know when the inquiry will start, how long it will last, or how much it will cost. The terms of reference still need to be drawn up. One would imagine that they will have the approval of the Finucane family. The Secretary of State today at pains to point out that the government wants to avoid unnecessary costs, and pointing out that some of the foundations have already been led in this case in respect of other reviews which have already happened.
How difficult a decision do you think this was for the Secretary of State to come to?
I think, in part, the government has been dragged to this position because of court victories by the Finucane family, notably the Supreme Court case 2019. But other actions since then has been hugely significant in forcing the government to make some form of decision. The government did have a choice. It could have sent this case to the new legacy body, but the Secretary of State at pains to point out today that there were unique circumstances as far as he's concerned. Commitments had been made, and that's what makes it distinct from many other legacy cases, if not indeed all other legacy cases. I
suppose a key question this evening is, are we looking at what could be the last Troubles-related public inquiry?
I think potentially, because the government still has faith in this new legacy body. It points out that it has powers just like the Inquiries Act. And essentially, I think all other cases will be directed this way because they do not have with them previous commitments by other governments to hold public inquiry. So there will be other cases lobbying for public inquiry. They may well go to the courts and keep pursuing this. But I think as far as the government is concerned, it is honouring a commitment today in respect of the Finucane case, and no other commitments have been given in any other case.
OK. Julian O'Neill, thank you very much. There is much more background on that case on our website this evening.